All right. So welcome back, everybody, to another episode of QuattroQuattroDos. Once again, this is your boy Christian. And today I have another special guest, another person that, some people will call the one of the originals, from '06 on. I have Mike Chabala. So how you doing, Mike?
I'm great, man. I'm gonna get my background theme music. Yay! Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm good,
there you
man.
go. There you go.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, man.
No, no problem, no problem. And yeah, like I said, we're here to talk a little bit about life. How soccer basically has shaped your life and
Yep,
made you the man I guess you are today, and just kind of get into it and just see if people can take anything away from that. I'm pretty sure they will, but
for
just
sure.
kind of dig into your life a little bit and see if you can share some stories and stuff like that
You
from
got
from
it.
your days. So
Yeah,
you're a Cali guy, you're a Cali boy, and
yeah,
can you tell me a little bit of how you grew up, in Cali playing soccer? Is it different
yeah,
than what you see here in Texas, maybe?
yeah, man. I mean, I my whole family's from California, Fresno, and man, I just grew up playing soccer like everybody else. I was really fortunate that God gave me this burning passion for this little ball that we all love so much, and the little sphere, and I just played my heart out, every single day forever, and was really fortunate, right place, right time. And I got identified by a scout from Austria, like at the age of 8. And then that kind of catapulted my soccer career. I went over to Europe for a couple of years where I did a lot of like training programs, which really kind of put me on a different level and trajectory. And I think that's where things really changed for me. But yeah, my whole family's from Fresno, California, grew up there, played soccer at the University of Washington, and then got drafted, one of the originals, '06, to the Houston Dynamo.
One of the OGs, huh? So going
Yeah,
in,
1836, I would say 1836 for those that
you
are real
the
fans.
real OGs. Um,
Yeah,
so how was that experience? Going as a kid to Europe. Were you already as a kid knowing like what I want to do this for the rest of my life, or because I know like for example South American people or like people that they see soccer every day as their passion. Maybe not so much in the U.S. Maybe now
right.
today probably. But how was that experience? And you would be like, I'm mate, but I want to be a soccer player when I grow up, type thing.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I can't describe the passion. I mean, people can probably relate, maybe like a significant other, or I don't know, man, like a calling, right? But I can't describe the feeling. But I mean, I would wake up. I mean, every day, man, eat, sleep. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that. But I would lay out my jersey on the floor before games, couldn't sleep. I mean, soccer wasn't very popular. Football wasn't really popular on TV, so it was really hard to find games. And really, as it is today for players, I mean, you could literally follow a player's journey on their Instagram story. But David Beckham, Pele, Beckenbauer. I mean, um, just list goes on. But I was very fortunate. Like I said, I got right place, right time with the whole Austria deal, and my parents are uh, unique individuals that they both had two different experiences that led them both to the same place, giving me and my sister the opportunity that they didn't. My father was a army brat, so he moved around all over the country, and it was all about my grandpa's career. And he didn't really get to play organized sports because my grandpa was just very career focused. It was all about him. My mom was like one of 5 and 4. And she didn't get to do organized sports or anything because it was all about the family and being equal. So, it was multiple kids. So when they met, they really wanted to give, their children, my sister and I, opportunities that they didn't. So at 8, I flew to Europe by myself. Like my parents didn't go, they couldn't afford it.
Whoa.
So yeah, so I was over there by myself off and on for 2 seasons, 2 years or so. And that was really the difference for me, not only as a football player, but as a child, man. I grew up early. I was speaking another language, managed my own money. And for what I know as like kind of a pivotal moment in my life that kind of shaped me to where I'm at today. But yeah, I mean, obviously on the football side of things, the technical training, the knowledge, I mean, just everything was tremendously helpful and kind of came back on a different playing level. And that's what really kind of catapulted me and playing up multiple levels, years, and got me into the next level of play.
Damn, that's crazy. I can't imagine at 8, just traveling by yourself, and especially,
No.
like that's a whole nother level right there of being a mindset. So obviously in high school you were pretty good because you got a full ride to Washington. So can you tell me a little bit about your high school days? I mean, you're good looking now, so I
Yeah.
imagine you were better looking then, no?
No, I was good. Thanks, man. No, I had a good time, man. I mean, so I'm like I've said from Fresno. At the time, both my mom, my dad, and my sister went to the same high school, and I was gonna be the legacy. I was the last one. And don't get me wrong, man. Like I'm a lover, not a fighter, but it was like my second year, or no, my first year. Like people were like, oh, this guy thinks he's all that, and it just like was a different vibe. And somebody kind of threatened, wanted to beat me up, and I was like, dude, I just want to play soccer. But what happened earlier, I'll go back to middle school days, is when I started playing Olympic development programs. I started like to be identified and stuff, and I heard about Landon Donovan and his story and stuff. And so I was just like, hey, I really want to play pro soccer too. And so that's what really, it really kind of changed me as an individual. And I said, I want to dedicate my life and I want to be a pro. Like I said, I'm going to start my professional, path. And I said, like, I want to give my life to like the ability of like playing at the next level. So I was like, okay, you know what? Like I'm willing to give up my life. I'm willing to, put everything on the back burner and say, I'm just going to be a professional soccer player. I mean, and they talked about, the Olympic coach was just like, you got to give up, sacrifice. You got to focus on certain things. I said, okay, you know what? Fine. I said, I'm going to give up candy. I'm going to give up fast food. I'm going to give up partying. I'm going to like forget all that stuff. I'm going to focus on just being a professional. And that was it. And so in middle school was like the trajectory point where I changed. So I never partied, I never drank, I never smoked, no girlfriends, maybe a couple, but like I was more focused on I'm 100% going to make it as a pro. And there was nothing that was going to stop me. I was in the gym early. I was working late. And, at the time I wasn't drafted, that was the program. So fast forward, just uber disciplined, freshman playing with varsity players, tough level, etc. Going back to that story, some people want to beat me up. I was playing soccer for another team on another side of town, a better school, better soccer program. So I transferred, and I transferred in my sophomore year, which means I had to sit out my junior year. So I didn't play soccer my junior year as a high school student. So I actually had to train by myself, play on the JV level, and I was playing on the JV level. Sorry, somebody's calling me right there. I was like, so anyways, I was playing on the JV level. And so I had to train on my own the entire time. So training by myself, like, I mean, it was very frustrating. It was a very tough time, but fortunately played my last season, won the championship. But I was playing like Olympic development programs. That was like the path, right? You play ODP, state, regional, national team. And then I got obviously selected. And then, yeah, my first official college visit was from the University of Washington. Dean Wurzburger came down, had dinner with my family. And I was just like, the fact that this guy flew down to have dinner with my family and the fact that you offered me a full ride, like I didn't even need to see the school. I'm like, I was either going to junior college, working at a, fast food restaurant, Target, whatever, and figure it out. I was going to play my way out of Fresno. Like that was it. So I have a hardworking family. They're great, but like nothing was handed to me. So thank God to my grandpa who had a little bit of money and, was able to support my sister and I a little bit more, my mom and dad. But otherwise, man, that was the only way. So the fact that I got that blessing was everything for me, and has helped me to get to where I'm at today.
So going into your college years, so were you going, because you graduated early with the degree in finance, right? Were you also going with that mentality of like, I'm gonna do my soccer stuff, but also have that mentality of someday the soccer career, you get older and stuff, and this is gonna help me? Or were you, because a lot of people just go and they go and they're like sports, and they leave like the schooling side, you just make it by.
Yeah.
But were you thinking also about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, man, you've got to be dumb. You've got to be stubborn. You've got to be relentless, and you can't hedge. Like there's no such thing. Like if you want to make something happen, there's just no alternatives. There's only one way out. And when you give yourself an out, when you hit the snooze button, when you start doubting yourself or thinking that there could be something better, it's over. right? Because that doubt, those other thoughts start to compile and they start to like, really change the trajectory and like that clear vision. And so like that never was actually a point for me. Like it was always me, like, soccer second, school first. Like, it was always one of those like where soccer was, no, I said that wrong actually, but like the way I would say it was like soccer was second, school was first. But like, one of my coaches said that to me, but it was more like I was there to play soccer. Like that was it. Although my grandfather and my family, nobody's graduated college. So like I was the first. So for me, it was, I want to do this for my family because nobody else has. Plus it's a free education. And my grandpa told me, look, go play soccer and then go play pro, but like go to school, get your degree and then go play pro. And I was like, okay. So there was no alternative for me. So I had to. And then my first year I had a bad girlfriend, like I was a head case. I almost actually lost my scholarship because I was the worst player. Like I was one of two full scholarships and I was supposed to be like the hope. And then I was not. And I was a head case. I was dealing with my ex-girlfriend back in California at the time, or like was my girlfriend at the time, was trying to go to UCLA, like wasn't fully present. And, I believe in like dark energy. And I don't mean that in a bad way because I believe in God and light and all the rest of it though. But I think that there's moments in your life that you have the opportunity to use negative scenarios to your advantage. A lot of people look at, something might be a disadvantage or something that is very hurtful that, brings you the worst emotions. And there's two different ways to look at that. And for me, I always relish in those moments where something bad happened to me. And God forbid, haven't had anything like that in a long time, but this girl broke up, cheated on me, whatever. And, I was heartbroken, man. I mean, there's nothing worse than getting your heart broken, right? Like a death or illness. And, that pain, man, was something that absolutely changed me. And so I went to a therapist. I really worked on myself, but gave me this new direction of hope and passion, that same passion that I remember when I was 4 years old. And I mean, I just needed that extra jet fuel to get out of the atmosphere. And that's what it took. And thank God, man. I mean, I was hell bent, man. I started taking like 3-4 extra classes. I was in the gym early again. Next year I was like All-American. And I mean, the rest of the story is that graduated early and the best college players in the country, went to the combine and, thank God Dominic Kinnear and the Houston Dynamo drafted me.
So kind of in between there also, you played for the Yakima Reds and the Fresno Fuego.
Yakima. Yeah. These are like, PDL teams, right? Like college like teams for players on like, youth development. So yeah, I during the summer you go play on these like youth teams, or not youth teams, but like youth professional development teams to get games and just train. So yeah, I played in Fresno with a team there, and then I played in Yakima, which, is Eastern Washington. So I would drive across the state to go and play. And, both my summers, I would stay in Seattle and just take summer schools so that I can keep pushing through. Cause, I had a timeline. So I wanted to make sure that I got through there with the amount of credits. So was on a really strict schedule to get myself out of there in one piece and on time. So those two great opportunities to play in Fresno and Yakima were great learning lessons. But I don't miss them.
No, I was going to ask you, cause I know a lot of people nowadays. I helped one of my friends run a league here out here in West Houston here in Katy. And there's a lot of guys that, they play in these teams, these UC, what's it called? All these UPS teams or whatever they're called. UPSL teams and stuff like that. So, it's just like, I always see it as a good opportunity for them to get seen and stuff like that. And I always, give them the advice. So I just wanted to hear from somebody that kind of went through that route, just to see how that experience was. But, you say you don't miss them, so it's all good.
I think what's important is that the game's adjusted and the way to be identified as adjusted and changed. I mean, we're talking 20 years ago. I think what's really important for youth players and any, parent or person listening and can give some advice to another player, it's like, you just never know who's watching. And you go back to like when I was playing in the Surf Cup in San Diego and there was a scout watching my game. I mean, by the way, I was playing 3 years up on an under 11 team competitive. Right. But like, I mean, I scored and, whatever, but like one of the 30, 50 fields that are there and there's a scout watching that sees me score. And next thing you know, I'm on a 747 by myself flying across the world to go train with the first division FK Austria Wien, like club, that changed my life. So whether you're playing outside of the park, whether you're playing pickup, whether you're doing the indoor league, whether you're doing UPSL, whether you're doing whatever, like players will be like, I want to get identified. We're like, look, create a YouTube channel, like start posting content, like do skill moves, like go down the street, find a local pickup, like look at Jay DeMerit's story, like, backpacking across the world to like go pursue his dream, it makes that like, there's no wrong way. The only wrong way is just not trying, because you are giving yourself a reason that you can't make it. Like there's always a way. Like I believe all roads lead to Rome. Like you just got to find your own path with what's in front of you. And for me, it was 2 opportunities to play at a higher level with other players, and just to, like what I say, keep the ball rolling, like just to keep playing, because you need to get touches, you need to get on the ball. And, the only way to get better is by playing games.
True. And so the draft happened. We just had the draft not too long ago, and some guys got picked up. You were picked up 44th overall. How was that experience like? Just being there and just waiting for a call, waiting to see if, am I going to get picked? When am I going to get picked? All these things.
Cool story, man. My parents are lovely. Like they're amazing, and I mean, I think that they just are older and things that they've never experienced, and just really seeing like how special these moments are. And I think as we get older, we appreciate little moments in time, right, that we probably don't acknowledge or appreciate in our younger days. But they flew me to Pennsylvania, they flew me actually, or Philadelphia, to the actual draft. And it wasn't promised. Like I didn't know if that was going to happen or not. One of the things my coach did at the time, Dean Wurzberger, was he called a lot of pro teams. And so I went to Salt Lake City, I went to the Rapids, I went to San Jose Earthquakes, San Jose. And, I got to train with a team for a week, right? So the coach would kind of see you a little bit, and helps to kind of like, okay, let me see what these guys look like within my camp, because a lot of times these drafts just aren't developed. There's such a big gap between college and pro. Well, fast forward to the draft, I got picked, I think it's 44 out of 46. Like, I mean, I was literally like one of the last guys, right? And I'm there, and kind of people are like, what are you doing here? Like only like the top 10 are there, right? Like it's just like not what it is today. And so I'm like doing my thing, whatever, just kind of working out. And I don't think I really realized that I wasn't maybe going to get drafted, or there was an opportunity or the chance that like it might not happen. But in my mind, I was 100% convinced, like I'm getting drafted. Like no agent was calling me and telling me anything. Like I'm just sitting in the crowd like somebody else, and they're going through one draft, first round, second round, third round, fourth round, and then like, I hear my name. I'm like, what? Wait, what? Because I kind of thought like, oh shit, I'm not getting drafted. And it's not like Mike Chabala, come on stage. It's like, all right, Mike Chabala, okay, next. And what, like the goalkeeper coach like knew that I was there, saw me, and was like, hey, Mike's here, and then like, they're probably like, what is he doing here? Like, why did he come out here? But Dominic came around, and at the time, it just said Houston, because they were moving a team from San Jose to Houston. So it was a blank scarf with just Houston on it, black scarf, Houston letter on it, and he put it around me. He's like, hey man, I just want to tell you, like, the reason why I picked you. And I was like, why? He's like, because you're not going to mess up my team. He's like, you're a good person. Like you're the first one on the field, we're the last one off. Like you're a good player, but a better person. And he's like, that's why he's like, I'm excited to have you on the team back in the camp. And I'm probably mixing up a little bit of that, because I think is maybe like later on after I got traded away from the Dynamo and came back around again and talked to him. But there was words of that essence of like, Dominic was very wise in his selections, and just knowing that these drafts never really pan out for players. And so it's more about who's going to be a good fit for my locker room and going to contribute in a supporting role, rather than like looking for some game changer, which obviously you're looking for a guy like Kai Kamara, or, I mean, I don't even know who else was in my draft class now. It was so damn long ago. But, the point is, like, I was really grateful. And that was a great moment in time for sure.
And I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about the locker room, and that, original Houston Dynamo, because, talking to Eddie, he talked about, the group and how you guys were like super close. And then I also heard you talk before about how, that team, it got, well, maybe, obviously other than the talent, it was just a great group, all together, the chemistry and just the love y'all have for each other, and y'all would fight for each other and stuff like that. So can you tell us, like, give us an insight, maybe a story or two of how that group was?
Yeah, I don't think that there's any words that I can possibly say that will describe or actually resonate with anybody to really, make it clear and feel like what that was like. And all I can say is like those 2 years of my life were arguably the best two for sure in my professional career. And obviously not because we won championships, but because of the chemistry, because of the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the fraternity, the intimacy, the atmosphere, the experience. I mean, if you look at any sports team, and there's so many great players, right? But like when it comes down to it, it's about the relationships. It's a very special spherical, I'll call it, mix of right players, like right attitudes, life altering events, obviously just like egos, it's a perfect storm. And I think that there's a good book called Culture Code that I read not too long ago, and it studies great businesses, teams, companies that are successful, and it's like, why, right? But I think the little things are what really did it for our team, and it was the relationship. Younger guys would babysit the older guys' kids. We would go out for drinks. We would have softball games. We'd go bowling. We were true. Like we were true friends. And I think that was like the most important part of like, I'm getting phone calls. Sorry. That was like that was a true part of like, for 1 hour sleep. Sorry.
You're good.
It's like the best part too. Fuck. Excuse my language. But like,
it's all good.
But anyways, like what I'll say is this, like that locker room was ultimately what helped create my company, and what I would say was my, Harvard MBA. Like that was my PhD. Like that time in that locker room, I learned how to be a good person. I learned what it was like to be a pro. I learned what it's like to be a winner. I learned what it's like to watch a bunch of 30, 35-year-old men argue, compete, be adults. I mean, like I learned about life like in those 10 years, but I learned about life in those 2 years. And so, I mean, this is a great story about Eddie specifically, but Eddie and Rico were on the field. We're getting ready to play for a playoff game. And, there's a 50-50, and Eddie and Rico hit the ball at the same time, and the ball doesn't move. And then they hit the ball at the same time again, doesn't move. Next thing they square up, just start going at it right there on the field. No. And we're right about to fucking go into the weekend. We're about to play, I don't even know if it was Salt Lake or Colorado. I forget who it was, but, and I mean, dude, Dom's like, Eddie, locker room, go. Like, we go through training, whatever. Well, we go back. Eddie's sitting on Rico's locker, like, ready to go. Like, all right, let's go. And they started going out again. Like, it was just like, dude, what's going on? But like, from that, we were able to just like, obviously they were able to squash it, and it was just like, when we're on the field, like, we're on the field. Like, we're there because we're trying to win, right? Yeah. And that was, those little like moments of you can look at that as like, oh, that's bad, like they're fighting. It's like, no, like we're competing, like we're training. Eddie's was a little off in those days, but that's what made him so great. Another great story was Duane De Rosario coming up to me at the end of training. We had already won our first championship. We're into our second season. I was going out. I mean, I'm not playing behind Wade Barrett. I'm not playing behind Brad Davis. Like, I mean, I'm cruising. I'm a pro. I'm kind of enjoying some drinks these days. I'm going out, kind of enjoying the little, limelight, if you will. And, I had probably an average training session and probably smelled like alcohol still. And Duane comes up to me, he goes, "Hey, man, what's up?" I was like, "What's up, man?" So, "What are you celebrating?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What are you celebrating?" I was like, "I mean, what do you mean?" He's like, "You're out drinking last night, you partying, right?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, we went to this place, man, it was fun." He was like, "All right, man." He's like, "Until you win your own championship, don't fucking show up to my field like this ever again, or I'll make sure you're off my team." Damn. And I was like,
"Yes, sir." What do you say?
But Duane wasn't the captain, right? Like, you got to look at like level 5 leaders, right?
Crazy.
Craig Weibel, Pat Onstad, Wade Barrett obviously was a captain, but he was a silent leader. I'm not even going to consider him in this conversation. Alejandro Moreno, Duane. I didn't even mention Brian Ching yet. Brad Davis. I mean, I could keep going. Like, you talk about a list of players. Like, it's incredible. And I'm not even talking about them as players, but like as individuals, alphas, like winners. And And I think that's it's very magical. And I think it's the small little moments within the team of constant little things that are going on, of everybody on the same page. And what I believe Dominic Kinnear best at is having everybody aligned on a mission and keeping everybody together and holding everybody accountable to a set of rules that everybody honors, respects, and then again, holds each other, polices each other. So if I'm late, fine. Brian Ching's late, yo, Brian, fine, put your money in, right? Like we all held each other accountable to keep a standard. And I think that was really the difference, man. I can go on and on all day though, but I'll just say this, like I've created my company based off of the principles that I've learned from those guys, Dominic Kinnear, in the Houston Dynamo in the old days of when I was there. And I think that that's truly something that was magical, differentiating. And I hope that Pat is able to instrument and you know, an instrument, but you know, apply. And you know, I know it's a big job for him in that role, but I think that, you know, I think that that's going to be something that he'll be able to at least start working towards. And I know a lot of the teammates want to help and contribute, but not to get into that. But that's enough on that.
Yeah. No. I know if we get talking about the Dynamo, I think we could be here for hours. But I also I had a little stat for you. I don't know if you know, but I was looking into your when you made your professional debut, I guess you can say, that you went in with the first team. I don't know if you remember. Well, obviously you do remember. But first of all, I want to tell you this, but you got a red card in that game, right? Am I right? Was that it?
I mean, yeah, I think it was the fastest red card almost in history. Like the first one. Yeah, I got a red card.
But
yeah,
but
first game
but did
professional soccer player.
Did you know that? Well, I mean, it probably is not the same at the same level. But Messi got a red card also when he made his debut with Argentina, the national team. So you know you can use that.
I love that,
you
man.
and Messi have something in common.
I'm honored, man. No, yeah. I mean, you know, I've been training really well. Like, I mean, yeah. So I was knocking on the door, and you know, I think it was just one of those things. Like, hey, let's get this guy some minutes. Like, let's get them in the game. Maybe something can happen. You never know. Like when you put young guys in the game like that, they're so excited. They're energetic. I mean, usually magical moments happen like that. Alex Dixon is one. I remember Alex Dixon getting in the game. I don't know if anybody remembers that name, but like Alex Dixon came on and scored like an absolute bomb to like 40 yards out. Right. It's just something magical about players getting their first appearance. Well, anyways, I just went in for like a 50-50, which was against AJ De La Garza, funny enough, but it was just like his foot was going this way, mine was going this way, and it just looked like it was anyways. But then like 4 minutes, man, and sent off. I mean, I was on suicide watch almost, but you know, it's like, what do you say to a guy? But you know, obviously the guys knew how disappointed and how bad that sucks. But yeah, first game, one red card, one for the books for sure. Thanks for reminding me.
Hey, no problem. That's what I'm here for. No, but I mean, hey, also, I wanted to get into your days in Portland, because I know that you had a lot of fun over there, or at least it seemed like it. I know, Portland is a big soccer city, as Houston is, even though we don't see it as much now. But, back in those days, I think they were neck to neck. But you had a goal there, and, I saw a karate chop, you did there with the little piece of log that they give you. So if you want to get into those days, I would like for you to tell me a couple things about those days. But also the real question is, what did you do with the log, the piece of log?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. So Portland was probably it was my favorite place to play, just because of the city. And I always say it was my best year of soccer. Like like my performance. I mean, the year in 2011, man of the match, scored one of my 2 goals against David Beckham, an unbeaten LA Galaxy team in like 16 plus games. ESPN, it was magical, man. It was incredible. I love the city. I love the culture. I love the people. It was charming. And I just really was excited to get out of Houston, just because I kind of think I ran its course, and, things were kind of adjusting there. And so I think a fresh start is always good. And it had been like 6 seasons, I think, with Houston. So I wasn't getting the time, and it was just fine. But regardless, Portland was amazing. But when I got there and they interviewed me and they said, are you going to get a log? I was like, what's a log? Right. And they're like, when you score a goal, I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to get a log. Like, yeah, I'm going to get one. And anyways, the tradition is lovely. I think it adds to the character and just the magic of PTFC. But, I hit a bomb, made a good run, played my best game probably in my career. It was amazing. And yeah, I got my log. What was cool about it is like when I got the log and, you know, Joey was like, you know, getting ready to like do it. He's like, dude, Mike, like it came apart. I'm like, oh no, it's okay. And I mean, I'm just like on the fly. I'm like, hey, Lavelle, come here. And Lavelle Palmer and I got traded up there. Great for him. Good guy. And I was like, hey, hold this together. And so people couldn't really see. So they just like held the log together. And, you know, just like they're both pushing it. I'm like giving this karate chop. If you go on YouTube, you can see it. I'm like, yeah. And I just chopped it right in front of the crowd. And they're just like, oh shit, this guy just broke the log. Like, what? And dude, it was awesome, man. So I, you know, kept the log, and then my dad got it framed. So it's back in my dad's house, framed up with the picture and stuff. Super cool moment, man. Yeah, definitely one for the books.
I watched that video, and it was funny because, you know, usually YouTube comments are, you know, terrible place to kind of go and wonder in. And then I saw one of the comments said, this guy's not a karate master, you know, and so I thought it was funny. But, you know, just in case you were wondering, you know, some guy out there doesn't believe in your karate skills.
Yeah, definitely think,
So I wanted to kind of get into that next step of your life, because I saw an interview that you did, and you talked about, you know, basically whenever you kind of decided to, it was like, you know, you were talking about those dark moments and using the like dark energy, you know, to kind of push you forward. And it was very interesting because you said like one in the story that you were telling is like you were going to practice one day, and you just, you know, you just didn't like, maybe you didn't feel it, or you saw this maybe chapter kind of closing, and you just kind of flipped around and you took a trip to New York. Like you just got on a plane and just kind of dipped.
Just like that.
And, you know, and I mean, to me, like, you know, I was like, man, that's crazy, because, you know, your whole life, especially now, you know, kind of knowing your story a little bit, you know, since you were 4 years old, you know, at 8, going to Europe and making trips, and, you know, your whole life, you know, putting stuff aside, your whole entire life. And then, you know, kind of having this realization that, you know, man, everything that I've done my entire life, you know, it's, I have to move on, I guess, from it. So I don't want to, you know, make you sad or anything, or take you through a rough patch of your life. But I think, you know, like, since you were talking about, you know, using those moments to push you forward, I think it's a great transition into what you're doing today.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And yeah, so you know, I went from Portland to DC. I was, something happened within that time period with me and with John Spencer, and you know, I was trying to get a new contract. I was making average money comparatively to all the other starting players in the league. And, you know, one thing that I didn't do a good job of was managing my contracts and my career on that side of it, which I've learned. But anyways, I got traded to DC, and I don't know, it was just a weird time, man. I just wasn't fully there. Like, the game was changing. I think I was jaded from that. When you go back to the earlier in our conversation about like that mentality piece of it, right? About, you know, high school, college, like doing school, doing soccer, like, you know, trying to hedge and, you know, make sure you get your career, because you don't know if you're going to get playing. Like, I started to think about life outside of soccer about that time. And I went to DC. I played okay. My grandfather passed away, and Ben Olsen was like, hey man, like, we're good. Like, the team's rolling. Just stay there, be with your family. Like, you know, we'll see you, like, you know, later on, but like, you're good. We don't need you, basically. And so I got that time cut off, quickly went to emergency mode. I'm like, shit, I don't have a team. Like, what am I going to do? Right. Cause they're like, hey, we're not picking up your option. I went to Dominic. I was like, hey, I know this is crazy, but Dominic kind of brought back a few players like Ryan Cochran, Kelly Gray. I mean, so like brought him back. And so I'm like, you know, maybe he'll bring me back. So I was like, hey, Dom, can I come back in and train? I'm just looking to get fit and just, you know, find a team. He's like, yeah, no problem. Anyways, I got signed. You know, I played really well that season. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to play next year. Well, they're bringing in DeMarcus Beasley. They're making other changes, like trying to get me to, you know, find a spot for me. And last day of preseason, he's like, I don't have a spot for you. And I had Montreal and San Jose both like, yeah, like we want him. Like, we'll take him. So hard spot. Grateful that it happened. Was very pissed at the time. But, you know, fortunately that forced me into the transition period. But like Dom said, hey, look, come back. Let's get you, keep training. We'll figure it out. Maybe a pivotal front office role, player role. Like we'll figure out something like we did with Brian Ching, where we can figure out how to get the money and figure out how to keep you in. But like, we want to try and make it work. anyways, I do that. Training for April or March, rest of April. And guys like, dude, are you getting paid? I'm like, no. Like, are you signed? No. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And, you know, nothing was opening up. Nothing was happening. World Cup's approaching. And I could slowly start to feel one of my gifts is feeling people's energy and just, I mean, really that's it. Like, I really just feel I feel energy from people. Like, I mean, it's very obvious if you look at somebody and the way they look at you, whatever, but like just the subtle things. And I felt the energy shift. I felt the locker room shift. I felt the coaching staff shift. I could just feel that I wasn't welcomed. Like, I feel like it was time. And yeah, man, sure enough, dude, 30th birthday, dude, driving, turned 30. And I just fucking had enough, dude. And I was like, all right, my girlfriend at the time was in New York, flipped the car around, went there, was with her for a while. Her family was helping me just kind of figuring out next steps. And, I started just going to different boutique fitness concepts, SoulCycle, Barry's, rowing concepts, bar concepts. I mean, everything you can think of, and everything's pretty much in New York. So that's what kind of teed me off. And I'd kind of seen what SoulCycle was doing before, went to a couple of experiences in the Hamptons, and, kind of started thinking about the idea of like, man, like that's kind of cool. Like, I wonder if there's anything for soccer, which started my curiosity. And then, during my career, which is another great, crazy story that I'm going to save for like my book or movie. But I flew to Hawaii and to go to the Four Seasons to go do my clinics and camps there that I've been running for a few years. And that was the World Cup season. That was World Cup year. So, there was like no games for like 6 weeks or so. So like I'm in Hawaii, and then I ended up living in Hawaii for 3-4 months. Getting to finally a point where I was like hiding. I was like, well, fucking, what am I going to do? I got no teams. Nobody wants me. It's after World Cup. It's been 7-8 months already. And, that was the end. I mean, not that I knew it, but, that's what started the transition. So, save a couple of great stories, but flew back and started the transition.
And I guess kind of the last question probably will kind of transition into the whole, the creation of Sphere. But, why does Mike Chabala choose Houston over maybe going into Portland, like going into that market, or maybe staying in New York, or going back to Cali, going back home? Why Houston?
Great question. Funny enough, man, but as a child, I loved the Rockets. Like I was a Rockets fan, obviously, because it was a winning championship team. Hakeem Olajuwon, Sam Cassell, like, dude, I mean, that was my team, man. And I used to play basketball and hoop outside, and I was just like, oh, Rockets are on, I'm watching it. Used to be a Nolan Ryan fan, like loved the Rocket. Like I just loved him, dude. More Texas Rangers, but it was Texas. Like I just loved him. Obviously Astros, but so funny enough, I get drafted to Houston, right? I mean, it was San Jose originally and then Houston. But I always feel like I had a calling to be here. And I come from a very strong Catholic family, a very loving family, constantly weekends with everybody. I had an amazing childhood and filled with love and that family goodness that everybody, loves and feels on the holidays, right? But like I had it all year round. And when I got to Houston, I really dove into the community. I mean, I did every appearance. I did every interview. I supported every business. I made every friend, and it was easy because the people were very easy. And I think that's something that is very unique. And I mean, I always wondered why so many people, said I'm a Texan, not a, American, right? Like everybody's very proud to be a Texan and much different than the rest of the country. And so I finally got to experience that, which aligned a lot with my morals and my culture and, family beliefs, my background. And I'm not even talking politics. I'm talking about the way that people operate as a human being. And so, through the transitions and through like the trades and then, finding myself back to come to Houston, I came back to Houston because I knew my career was about to end and I knew I had unfinished business here, but I also knew that this was going to be the best place for me to transition with the network and the friends that I had. I knew I needed to buy myself time. So thank God Dominic gave me another opportunity. And I think that was, a blessing. And that was the moment that I realized like, hey, this is a great spot for me. So like in that long explanation, in that transition, cost of living, the community, the team. And I honestly will just say this, like, I had unfinished business here. Like, I just didn't feel like it was time for me to go in any way, shape, or form, to go back to mom and dad's house and go, live with them. Like, no, like, that's just not an option, right? Like, I would rather live on a couch at an optometry practice, barely have any gas in my BMW that I could barely pay for, barely getting by, yet living this facade, drinking myself to sleep every night, miserable because I don't have any friends, and wondering what I'm going to do with my life. And like, that's what I chose. But it's the reason why was because of the people, the community, the relationships. Like, that was it. And it felt like home, and my whole life I haven't felt home, like, since I left, for college, really. I mean, even that too, my family would probably say that I really probably never felt home after 8, because I was gone, and I was gone, and I was gone, and I was gone, and it was it. So what I know and what I knew was being on the road and traveling. So spending so much time in Texas, it's like the closest thing that I know to home. So that's a long-winded explanation, but I'm glad, because like I said, like, God just had a plan for me, and where I needed to be was here. And otherwise, I just don't believe that I would have been able to start my company and do what I did if I was anywhere else. Like, I needed to be here, like, exactly in Houston, Texas, for sure.
And to kind of finish off, can you tell us about, what you created in a way, this concept that you came up with?
Yeah, I mean, the fast version, as I was mentioning about the whole New York trip and looking for a soccer inspired workout concept. I mean, I was secretly trying to stay in shape to get back into the league, trying to find a team. And, I was going to different workouts to try and find a way to stay in shape. Nothing was coming close. And I think that transitional period, and that place where I was in Hawaii, I started manifesting these ideas about Sphere and what that looked like. And so what really happened was I was lonely. I was missing people. I missed the locker room. And I was struggling, and I needed to figure out how to find something to kind of fill that void. And I tried it, spins, yogas, CrossFits. I tried it, and I just couldn't find anything. Everybody preached team. They didn't know how to be a teammate. Everybody said that they're connected, but super disconnected on their phone. I mean, you name it. I experienced it. I tested every workout concept, put it up against what, I believe soccer players are the most, fit, all around athletes. And so I just said, I'm going to go create my own, like, fitness company, like a soccer inspired fitness company. And I had these crazy ideas about creating this, like, lights down, music up, beat based workout. And, I just had this idea of, making the world a better place by bringing it together. And, the only thing that I knew was the locker room from the Houston Dynamo in 06 and 07. I said to myself, if I just can create that feeling, if I can feel that again, like, I'll feel like I'm at home. Right. And so as I just started to create my company and started to work towards, like, whatever it is that I was creating. And if you go back and look at some of the videos, like, wow, like, this is crazy. I mean, as long as I could feel that the energy in the group was right, then I knew I was going in the right direction. And I moved that way. So what was a company to compete in the boutique fitness world, like a Soul Cycle or Barry's, as a soccer inspired fitness concept, has changed to be a human connection company, a company to connect people on and off the field. So Sphere is a business that I created, to help people connect on and off the field. And, we do that through game-changing workouts, atmospheres, and experiences. So, one thing that's been really challenging as an entrepreneur is just, like, a really bad soccer game. And for those Dynamo fans that are OGs, if you will, there's probably a team that everybody remembers, which it was the CONCACAF or Champions League game. We went into, like, double OT, and Joseph Nguyen missed a penalty kick that landed on somebody's chest. Do you remember that? I don't even know if you remember that game. No. But anyways, man, it was just a bad game, man. Like, so many injuries, red cards, whatever. Like entrepreneurship is like a game to me, and so it just takes a lot of time. The play has to develop. The team has to be right. Like, you got to see what's working. You got to change what's not. And, over the past 7 seasons of running Sphere, I've been able to just take that athletic mentality of every single day's training. There's going to be good games. There's going to be bad games, but it's a season. It's a long season. And, you know, it's not going to be right at the start. It's going to take some time to develop and work out, but that's been really helpful for me to be able to just continue to persevere and push through, especially during a pandemic, especially through, you know, money and tight times and, you know, bad calls, plays, changes. But yeah, man, it's been a blessing for me. And so Sphere for me is as like my hope is really to keep our world connected as we keep moving forward and to see where we are today with COVID, the division between, you know, everything really these days, it seems, whether you're vaxxed or left, right, or whatever color you might be. And, you know, I really feel that with the way the metaverse and the way that technology keeps moving, I feel like, you know, what we all crave and care about the most. And at the end of the day is, you know, the physical human touch that we give each other. And so as I keep moving through this thing we called life, I realize how valuable, you know, our community is, our teammates, and, you know, this team. So yeah, my goal is to connect the world. My goal is to, you know, help people find each other and connect and ultimately, you know, just do my part, man, and give back to the game that's given me everything.
That's awesome. Well, you know, when I was talking to Jonathan to kind of set this up, you know, he one of the things that he mentioned that I thought it was really cool, it was how y'all kind of created y'all's own little language, and he was talking about connecting passes, and I just thought it was a really cool concept, you know, the whole bringing like the soccer lingo into like, you know, real life and kind of connecting passes with people, I think is cool. So thank you for connecting, you know, this pass with me, you know, putting a nice through ball. And I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for jumping on and talking to me and letting everybody kind of hear your story for a little bit.
Yeah, Cristian, don't ever hesitate to reach out if I can ever help you. And as I like to say, man, keep the ball rolling. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you guys.